My dad's like, if you want to win again, I can teach you how to win again. We've got to put the phone off. We've got to get that mindset back. Get rid of everything that's happened in the last couple of months. Speak to someone properly. Get your mind right. It's nothing to do with your ability. You're the man.
Let's dive into the session with none other than Chad Leclerc.
WhatsApp Chad 2084 000 947 to receive a link to watch or listen to this intimate discussion with Chad Leclerc.
Swooning for some jazz.
Let Nothemba Madumo serve you up some jazz and beyond
On 702 and CapeTalk.
It is Jazz and Beyond on 702 and CapeTalk with me, Nothemba. And as usual at this time, we get into these beautiful, intimate conversations with my guests who the whole idea is to get to know who they are, who they think they are, why they are, and also just to celebrate who they have become in our world of music. And I love today's guests because of a lot of things. One, she occupies several worlds simultaneously. She's a performer, she's a composer, arranger, she's a vocalist, a bassist, a scholar, a lecturer, a curator, as well as a researcher. And her international performance history is quite substantial. She was a member of the Grammy-nominated Zap Mama from 2003 to 2007. Some people may not know Zap Mama, but if you don't research them, you will understand what you missed out on. But also quite importantly is her being a lecturer at Wits and a PhD candidate. With her research, I love her research questions because they are around the colored identity, the African feminism, and also just the historic sound. If maybe you know by now that I am talking about the one and special Chantal Willie-Petersen. Hello, Chantal.
Hello, Sis Nothemba. I'm so ready to fall over. You've been so generous. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. Special for me too. Thank you.
Thank you, because I really believe that, we need to acknowledge your existence, the work you do, and celebrate it, or at least let people know that some of the things that you love are things that you also just want to share with the rest of the world, because some people may not be aware of some of these things, and also not aware they need to be exposed to some of these things, just for them to, not just for knowledge, but also empowerment and growth, and a better look and wisdom, towards life.
Thank you.
Because I just believe those are some of the things that you get to do. Are you in a happy pace right now?
Sis Nothemba, I want to share that in coming here today, I was milling in my mind about the type of questions you would ask, because you are so poignant and so intentional in the way that you probe a question. And I would never have thought that you'd open with this question. And my honest reply is that I believe in the seasons that have come and gone, there comes a place called peace. There comes a moment called peace. There comes and becomes a reason called peace, where everything about what has been difficult, what you've pushed through, what has been reluctant to come to grips with in the life that we live, there is a moment called peace. And so that overflows into a constant purpose that allows us to seek out why we can find joy in life, which is not without understanding that there is the ebb and tide of loss, the ebb and tide where we can't even reason sometimes about why it is we're here and what it is that brings significance to our relationships. And I would be amiss not to say that by the grace of God, I truly believe that I am in a place where happiness is about seeing others prosper, knowing that I've been honest and done my very best to contend for the things that need to contend for concerning faith, but also to press on towards the things that are not yet what they should be, and to say that gratitude is the outlook by which I'm going to embrace life. So I love that question. And yes, I am truly in a place like I've never been before, Sis Nothemba, where I'm okay with death.
Yeah.
I'm okay with life and the in-between of what it means. You know, when you need to truly allow peace to pass over all things so that you can understand why prosperity is important. Prospering of the soul and then into all that we are.
I love your answer, and especially when you talked about how you believe you were being honest about who you are, and for you to even welcome and receive the things that are happening to you. And I also, believe that being honest and being authentic actually does relieve you of things that you shouldn't worry about when you know you are living within your own authenticity.
Yes.
So you can't really project what other things are happening around, as long as you know, as long as even if it's happening out there, at least I'm living my authenticity and my honesty.
Yes.
Nothing can come back to me and say, yeah, because you were shady there, or you lied there, or you or you did this there. That I think that part becomes very important.
You know, Sis Nothemba, I don't know if you've been following the case of Professor Jason Ardy in Britain.
Yes, a little bit, not in detail.
Yes, and Sis Nothemba, your question brings that to mind, because I sometimes, throughout the last couple of days, I've been pondering on why success is important and what we at times are pressed to do to compromise the honesty of where we really are. And this is not in any way a reflection on the outcome of what I feel concerning his life and the tragedy about it, but it made me probe inwardly to understand that at some point, Sis Nothemba, when you have to be honest about what you're not, and be honest about accountability, and be honest about the path to where you want to see yourself, it is far better to take the long, narrow road, because at some point there may just be vulnerabilities that actually upstage everything that has come before, that is good, that has been of profit, that has been of progress, not only to you, but a community. And so, it brings me to the thought also that it is important, Sis Nothemba, that we know, for example, that being of a certain background, having a certain disposition, to understand the sensitivities that come with that, but also understand the areas where you could be asked to answer for things. Not right now, but when you get to a certain place of a certain or a distant prominence, or even just service, that you are always aligned to what your mistakes have been, and made every effort to cover that, but also know that we don't have to be intimidated by what we've not gotten right, that we should push in and on towards what is
absolutely
available, but in an honest way. So that was a very, very a difficult thing for me to watch over the last couple of days, and it impacted me quite a bit. Also because it's in circles of academia, and it is a black man, and it is a young man, and it is a man who's had neurodiverse issues concerning the realms of education and that space. You know, music aside, it is still that we are in spaces where relationships matter, and how do we push past when we need to deal with things that can be so devastating in an environment that's predictable, but also in an environment that's not. How are we holding each other? How are we holding the people that we account to? How are we holding those who still need to understand what accountability is? You see, there's just such a pull sometimes.
But I think it's also an indication that you know what lies in the dark will always come out eventually.
Sure.
In the light, but
yes.
We'll come later to you know, some of the challenges you might have, you know, come across in your journey, not only in personally, but musically and even academically as well. But I just want us to maybe start. I don't know whether we've started. We've started already. Because you spent your life listening deeply, you know, as a musician, and now even as an academic, you're hearing the world around you, and at this stage of your life, maybe you're hearing something in the sound that you didn't hear 10 years ago.
What a great question, sis. Nothemba, wow. And you know, listening is actually the methodology around my PhD. And it's a listening where I'm focusing on the last 10 years of apartheid, looking at two female composers and trying to understand how domestication, the idea that women are held to a process of domestication, what that sounds like in music and how that brings to the fore what it is that they sounded, but also why it is that sound was perceived in the way it was in the area of jazz studies, and then how that lends itself to understanding what yet still remains to be put in the narratives of women in jazz, or, you know, understanding the practice of jazz itself, addressing what women were prevailing through or pressing through. And so, Sis Nothemba, it's just such a marvelous question, because listening is such a requirement, I think, to the process of, as you were saying last week when you were emceeing at Mum Abigail's curation, that the process of becoming does require a listening on a number of levels, listening with an inwardness, listening with an outwardness, listening and knowing an environment. And I think, Sis Nothemba, as I engage the listening on a musical and in a creative way, I think the most phenomenal press that I am engaged with right now concerning listening is the fact that with the way we are designed, there is a listening that happens in a neurological way, a neuroscientific way, but to understand how we've actually been built and designed to retain listening as a memory, as a way to simulate identity, but also as a way to engage the narratives that we eventually archive. So even at the time of, and in, you know, practicing as a musician, there are aspects to learning the state that we can recall something before we articulate it, but it is a sound that we can recall because there's sensory knowledge, to the place now where I understand listening to be an important way of, I don't even want to say that it's a non-verbal type of communication. It's actually, for me, if we are trained to listen with all the mechanical and neurological functions that we have, we not only are able to engage in a better way, but there's a type of perception that is deeply, for me, rooted in a spiritual essence that I believe gets us to a place to garner wisdom and understanding far, far deeper and far more unapologetically than we have before. So even in the way that we're taught, for example, Sis Nothemba, there's an aspect of oral and oral studies in jazz. But when we listen to music, and we understand that it's not just about what we're hearing, but the sensory nature of what that is, and understanding how to propel and expand that, or even give it a place within our historical knowledge. Listening actually perpetuates, and I think starts to open up a greater ability for all of us to understand who we are and who we are becoming, outside of just the fact that it is a mundane sense of filtering what the brain hears, and even hearing in and of itself is such a deeply layered process. So that's a wonderful question.
Thank you. But I'm now fascinated by your PhD research on this, the difference in and the evolution of the sound that you're hearing as in relation to women and the domestication of women. What are you finding?
Oh, thank you, Sis Nothemba. What I'm finding is that domestication, as we know it, is a term where traditionally we think of anything in the wild, inverted commas, being brought into a more, anything in the wild being processed to fit something that is of a usefulness. In other words, if we would domesticate a wild plant into a medicinal use, that process is what we call a form of domestication. And so, Sis Nothemba, it is a revisit and a visitation back to understanding what women were subjected to, but also what the culture and the socio-musical norms were of that time, and how that in a way pressed a certain type of prototype for women musicians in the last 10 years of apartheid, especially given that many of the women during that time were either exiled or in South Africa, but that they were dealing with the pressure of nuances within their own communities, but then also dealing with what activist writing was, to deal with violence that was seen or unseen, heard or unheard, and then having to domesticate this phenomenon into something that was musical, took a certain type of tempering, but it is more than what we often pay attention for or to. And so the listening of voices in the way that, for example, with Miss Nothemba Benjamin, I'm looking at when she sings her songs that are personal, in other words, written by her, written over and for and towards the songs of freedom, you would notice that her registers are larger. Her harmonic rhythms and the repetition of certain pronouns are larger. So in other words, it's more frequent, it's more cyclical, there's more expansive use of the voice, as what I'm investigating, Sis Nothemba, is how the voice works as a sonic womb and a membrane. In other words, the wombing of what was in an intellectual way, but birthed out through the voice, and what it required for them to be able to listen for, and how also there could be limitation around that, because any sense of trauma in that time was also not what we could necessarily in a tactile way be able to say. For example, there are many studies now that look at trauma and the sense that unless we address it in a way that is holistic, there are still facets in which we remain triggered by things, and then healing cannot actually take its full proportional wealth for any individual. So it's also understanding that all of this plays a type of domestication in which women have had to de-domesticate themselves to be able to really open up to an entire world that was wanting to hear what they needed to say and wanted to say, but also it was a type of microaggression that they kept having to portray themselves in a certain way to be heard. So it's the sound, Sis Nothemba, and it's the culture,
And
but
the,
it's also
and
the
the lived
specificity.
experience.
Yes, and the lived experience, yes. And it's also trying to look at how musical sound carries these types of domestications, and it just probes towards, is there more we could have listened for? Is there more we need to go back and listen to? So that we just understand and give weight in a way that I think is broader than what it has been done before. Because, Sis Nothemba, with regard to Sis Nothemba Benjamin and Sis Tina Scow, they are the two case studies that I'm looking at. There was, especially with Sis Tina Scow, the aspect of censorship and the aspect of her not recording any, if a real minimum amount of the songs written over that period is something that's still what I know she is revisiting in a personal capacity. So it's also understanding how we archive better so that we reflect well with historic listening.
Are you hearing, though, the current sound of the women
Yeah.
today has been de-domesticated, and there is a more sense of freedom in expression and a deeper sort of dig from the soul of what they want to say and of the sound.
Oh, Sis Nothemba, I have colleagues at Wits who are at the fore of allowing sound to be so honest, giving permission for young women to look at women and say, there is no sense in which we need to filter outside of the fact that I would choose not to share something because there's such an authenticity and energy, and I think a boldness about how music truly speaks to the creative genius, because it is for me at that level with the women I work with and that I'm inspired by and that are now taking national stage, and also that there is a ability to articulate what they hear and to be able to song that through in a way that builds on the traditions that have come before. But even firstly, Sister Nothemba, if you would look at the way that we speak and the way that the language of our mother tongues are being used in jazz and in improvised music in a way that, for example, I think speaks for more than what our mothers before in song could, because the culture was different and the politics of respectability, as I think Prof. Dimitri Erasmus speaks of, I think that's her frame of word. It was so different, but they have just taken respectability and put it on another, I think, level for us to attain a real honesty about what we say, why we speak, why we use titles, how text serves communication in an unapologetic way. Unapologetic doesn't mean disrespect is not given.
Absolutely.
A sense of occasion, but it's just being without the need to always explain why this is significant and to be bold about it. It's amazing.
Yes, without having to filter yourself and, like you say, having to explain why you screamed at that point.
Yeah.
Yes, and why you were howling at this point, and and why that vocal was, or whatever, and even instrumentally as well.
Yes,
the exploration of your instrument in not necessarily the within the confines of what's expected or what you were taught. And but just with abandon.
With abandon. That's beautiful.
With abandon.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That is a really beautiful.
Do you find that you're experiencing music differently since being an academic?
Sis Nothemba, yes, definitely. I think the idea of, I would say, and I trust that this makes sense also, Sis Nothemba, academia should be the most transparent process. It should be the most accessible, because it just, I feel, means where something is studied to serve and to integrate who I believe are those who serve in public academia, but also in academia that isn't necessarily institutionalized just yet.
Yeah.
It should be the basis for and by which knowledge is seen, it is made visible, it is not dealt with in any discriminatory way, and it should be a place where we are at the fore of inviting, engaging within the system that, for example, a music department serves, which is to look at different ways in which music is taught, but also engage with the best in the field according to the different ways in which specialization has taken root and then grown further. But it should be about people, and it should be about developing people first and taking the gift that sits upon their life to a level that is for the world to celebrate. And so, Sis Nothemba, it's made a very big difference in the way that I see the practice of music, but also the way in which perhaps I'm a little bit more passionate about the gaps that are there and the way in which we develop the culture for learning and the way in which we esteem especially our knowledge bearers who, because of what has happened in a social way in South Africa, need to be brought from the fringes in to share, to be uplifted, and for their voices to be heard.
Yeah.
Where we really listen and take stock in a way where we can allow the academic spaces to become spaces of listening and hearing and finding ways that esteem knowledge with all the relational values that are required for us to sustain healthy practices.
So those spaces
Yes.
it's important that they're accessible.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. But
Yes, ma'am.
when Chantal, who is, by the way, very mean bassist, so when Chantal picks up that big double bass, are you thinking of something?
Sure.
Or are you following a thought or escaping a thought?
Sis Nothemba, that your questions are wonderful. Oh,
Thank you.
I wish I'd had a chance to just even meditate on them, because they could be answered in so many ways, and I'm listening for what is honest in my reply.
Sure.
Sis Nothemba, I think every season that your instrument is lifted to become an expression of sound, but also ensemble, and then also reflection. For a long time, after Andre died, it was a place where I felt sorrow. So it wasn't a place that I found comfortable to engage any expression, because the inertia of picking up an instrument was having to deal with the loss of love, the loss of partnership, the loss of music, and really grappling with why, the most important thing could become the thing most lost. Why the thing most lost needed to become the thing most intentioned to fight for life for. And in this time, by grace, Sis Nothemba, there's been it's been overwhelming, but there's been an overwhelming, I think, from the point that you sometimes make a decision to say, I'm choosing, though I may not know everything about why the reasoning for me to pursue life is in place just yet. Somehow there's a grace, somehow there is a way that picking up that instrument has become about making it count. Making it count that I still can. Making it count that I may still serve. Making it count that I may still be that one moment, that one place, that one voice, that one picture for first and foremost my daughter, Sis Nothemba, because she must mirror in me everything that I correct, everything that I aspire for her to see. And then in the communities where, we are sent to serve, that when I lift the instrument, it is not about performance. It is first and foremost about the principle that I'm honest with myself, that there's no need to prove myself to the point that it becomes a fabrication of pretense. In other words, Sis Nothemba, that what escapes me in the moment is because other things are a priority, so that when I hear and what I hear in the moment is because I've been through seasons of choosing to be prepared, and that the gift has grown to the place where what I practice is what I want to leave as a sort of listening promise to the one who hears me, in that they understand a little bit more about why peace brings this place, as you were saying in the beginning, Sis Nothemba, where peace can bring a place where we can be okay with doing the best we can in the season we're in.
Absolutely.
Sis Nothemba. So that it's a deeply spiritual process. Even picking up an instrument to practice is a deeply lonely one at times, because it's seasons, especially for younger musicians, it's seasons of practicing and practicing and practicing. And then there's an ensemble time where you move around and you come around people, but it's preceded a long period of aloneness with the instrument.
With the instrument.
Yes.
For some of our viewers and listeners who may not be aware that you talked about Andre. Andre is Chantal's partner, who was a brilliant pianist, who we all loved and who passed. And I know it was a painful, hard, and a long period for you to go through. And just seeing how the strength you have portrayed and you have had to find, I'm thinking if that experience was also meant to show you a purpose you were not aware of.
Yes, Sis Nothemba. And firstly, thank you for acknowledging Andre. Thank you for honoring his name. And Sis Nothemba, his favorite scripture was Romans 8:28, which says that, for we know that all things work for good of those who love the Lord. And exactly the first question, I need to come back to that, exactly what you were saying at the beginning. Are you in a happy place? And the moment he closed his eyes, I had to make a decision around what was going to help me stay grounded. And it was that I would have the grace and strength to finish what I knew he was incredibly passionate about. And Sis Nothemba, I have to say that when I least thought, and what I least thought possible, has been the very assignment that has been the pointedness in what has been brought to completion concerning since his passing and where I am now. And it is just really an honor to know that in the way that I knew what was important for him, that I've been allowed to, knowing what those important values were for him, knowing that I've had a way in which some of them could be earthed and could be seen in the earth in his absence, has meant so much. And to say that we need one another to build each other's legacy. Legacy isn't about the amplification of one voice, Sis Nothemba. It is also not about the quantity. It is the quality. Visibility is so much also about the quality of our relationships and the way that we can celebrate one another. And so that is a true and honest impetus, Sis Nothemba, of the piece that I was sharing in the bikini.
That has been brought
transpired.
about
Yes.
because of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Matt.
When you talk about, it being in the forefront, as a bassist, most bassists are in the back.
Happy place.
Is that it? They don't occupy the foreground. Do you think though that women musicians have sometimes, because of it, have conditioned themselves to be comfortable being in a support, comfortable being in a support space rather than claiming the space?
Sister Nothemba, I think that in the beginning when instrumentalists were, female instrumentalists were taking the fore, and that wasn't, I've looked at the jazz history that's been archived, and there is much room to still look at the development of female instrumentation from the beginning of, let's say, jazz history in South Africa. And I definitely feel that there is a period now where it is a certainty around what we celebrate in the voices of dual instrumentalists, so in other words, multi-instrumentalist, who is one woman, one person, but playing multiple roles in composing, performing, and then taking the instrument to the fore. And I think, Sis Nothemba, it's also, so I think the dispensation now is definitely one in which women will have a better place around feeling comfortable with that openness and that forthrightness in their voices. And I think sometimes, sis, I know that, Sister Nothemba, we have to stay encouraging ourselves to allow that space to be heard, also unapologetically, where we don't have to hide behind one another. And we also know that there are different seasons in which we serve and which we say, okay, now,
It's my time.
It's the time now to put forward. So I definitely think, sis, Nothemba, sometimes it's a personality thing.
Yeah.
And then you need to just say, okay, hold on now. I need to, lean in.
And also a confidence thing.
And a confidence.
Because
yes.
as women,
Yes.
we've culturally been brought up. Don't speak loud.
Yes.
Don't shout.
Yes.
Just be seen. Don't be heard.
Right. That's right. That's right.
You'll be appreciated if your voice doesn't scream and it's not squeaky.
Yes.
Make it
Yes.
low and sexy.
Yes.
Or,
Yes.
So
Yes.
half the time now, despite your personality, you're having to dim yourself down.
Yes.
With that voice, and that voice is just not as in your oral, it's your voice as a being.
Correct.
Kind of thing.
Correct.
So I like the fact that women are like, hey, this is me.
Absolutely.
If I'm too loud, lower the volume or something, kind of thing.
Absolutely, sister. But because our reservations and conditionings have to be brought under scrutiny, sometimes even self-scrutiny, to say, but hold on, I cannot people please and make progress. At some point, I'm going to have to be okay with being at peace, as you're saying, Sister Nothemba, because that happy place is going to be interrupted. If we keep compromising our voices as women, there's a certain leadership that is the dispensation for women right now. And I'm so excited about that.
I just want us to get back into your research stuff.
Sure.
Because it touches on as I mentioned in my introduction, on various things. And of course, the colored identity, the African feminism, which I think we've already touched on, and just the historic sound.
Yeah.
the colored identity is a complex one in this country, and weaving through that, not only you as a woman, as a musician, one who plays an instrument, or maybe even as an academic, and maybe in the various roles that you already play. Has there been a gradual openness and an acceptance? Is it because there's a different generation that has a different outlook and understanding of who we are as a country and what we want to become? Because I think that also plays a role.
Yes.
That if you are dealing with either decision makers or gatekeepers who belong to a certain, outlook and socialization, it's a harder to resist. But as some people with wisdom, knowledge, experience, and understanding are now saying, Chantal is fantastic. I don't know what she looks like. I don't care. I don't know where she comes from, but she's fantastic. And she deserves to be where she is or get what she deserves.
Oh, thank you, Sis Nothemba. Part of the many questions around the research question, and part of a large question that was the motivation behind the study, is because of the pain of isolation, being called colored, and then having to deal with the reality that the racial identification, which is still what we are asked for today, tore away from the desire to really just have a belonging that was share belonging, have a belonging that was not without ideology and understanding, not without acknowledging the difficult, harsh, wicked politics, not without acknowledging that there is still yet a way to move through the complexity of being trusted both ways. And know that I didn't want to understand that merit could only be on what Sis Nothemba in certain academic frames are put as, whether it's well received in, let's say, groups and communities. I'm not certain of that, but to move away what was put forth as a construction, which is what race is within, and based in eugenics and the biological race constructed on, to ideas that there are certain socio-cultural processes that have led to the formation of, in this instance, the colored identity. This is just a few voices that are sort of framed in academic works. And so, Sis Nothemba, I, with much grace and sensitivity, it always is important that my closest sisters understand that I talk very openly about being colored in terms of the history of the country that we all are, that we are from, but also understanding that I honestly see myself as coming from colored communities, speaking Afrikaans and English, therefore, and having a sensitivity to what was not done well in my community by the leaders at that time, and saying, I'm so sorry for that. And here I am, born in 1978, having had this life experience and making every effort to be honest and authentic in what I am not, by biological and by socio-cultural purposes, and making it very honest and open in the way that I communicate what it is that and why I seek the level of connection that I do. I hope that makes some sense.
It does, because it also talks about that a lot of who we believe we are sometimes has more to do with what other people have told stories about us that we actually are not, and we believe this is who you are because somebody said.
Yes. No. And Sis Nothemba, part of the saying and the listening is that it does form a belief system, and that belief system is often then, if a creative decides to narrate that in sound, it is something that is archived as something very personal, but also it is a vital constituent of the ways in which we ultimately are with one another, and the ways in which cultures, in institutions, in education institutions, in performers, in the creative sector, it is the way that we ultimately can either move ahead with the right people in the right place, with account being measured to that, that doesn't always draw on the things that have been painful and that are significant, but that we understand why certain filters may yet remain to be of imperative, I want to say, restitutional justice, and we shouldn't be shy about that in any way, but also understand where we need to envelop certain institutional beliefs that are going to make accessible the things that have to change for transformation to be sustained.
Which becomes also very important. You can't ignore that.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sister Nothemba.
You talked about conversations with my sisters. Sisters, who are the sisters? And on the musical part.
On the musical part.
Because you're also going to be part of the sisters, the bassist sisters at the Standard Bank Joya Jazz. So there's something about sisterhood that brings a sense of safety.
Yes.
And trust that I'll be okay.
It is so. Yes, indeed, Sis Nothemba. Let me firstly talk about this wonderful project that Sis Otebza invited me to. And I will say it at each moment that I speak with her, how much it means to have the trust and the reciprocation and the welcome to something that she was asked to take as musical director and leader. I am looking forward to meeting our two other sisters that are on the project. But I know Sister, we also are at church together. So this is a really deep and wonderful woman that I celebrate in my life, who has many occasions. Sister Nothemba, I shared it at the table last week. She's gotten up at midnight to pray with me. That is something deeply sacrificial and meaningful. And Sister Nothemba, I have two, Dr. Puti Supero and Sis Matapelo Matapane they are my speed dial sisters. They are loved in my heart. And then all my female colleagues, sister colleagues, at first Sis Sia Makuzenu, who's just joined us, Sis Gabby Mutuno, Sis Ziza, Sis Zasia is there, Sis Lindy Sis Lindy Nganello, Sis Mimi Umchali. We are family, and we are knitted together in ways that we learn and grow from one another. Sometimes we expand because we also have to deal with difficulties. But that expansiveness is because it's girded with love and respect. And so it's special when women work together. It just is special. It just is, sis. And many others.
And many others. And we're certainly looking forward to that Joy of Jazz situation.
Thank you, Sis Nothemba.
Which is going to be fascinating. This morning you sent me a song.
Yes.
I didn't have I was driving here, so I couldn't listen. I just want us to talk about your music and your expression of your bass through those music. You've collaborated with so many musicians. is there a Chantal Petersen album or something, or I don't know what's happening?
So, Sister Nothemba, and let me also please share, Sister Nothemba, I am a twin, and so my musical twin and my musical sister and the woman who wombed life with me, Danae, I could not. I think I sometimes have to, because it's so emotional to talk of her, but she is the woman who's taught me sisterhood. And the privilege to be a woman twin, a female twin, has been rooted, I think, at the much valued place there is for women. And of course, my mom and my aunts, there is just a community of women, sis, who've taught me well. And I have to acknowledge them today. So that's a wonderful question. Thank you. That we may name those who name.
You have to. You have to. You cannot leave them out.
Yes, it's not
because also just naming them, and because you're putting it out to the universe that listen, receive my gratitude of these women, of these people who have played a very significant part in my life.
Yes, Sis Nothemba. And to say with the album, Sis Nothemba, I've sent you a piece I wrote many, many years ago.
Oh, is that what is it called?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour.
Yes. It was, I had the privilege to open for Cassandra Wilson, and so I composed a few things, but Sis Nothemba, it is something that I've written for orchestras and different projects, and I am, when the season is right, Sis Nothemba, it is something I would love to leave as a legacy for Zion. And so I am putting together curations of pieces. But thank you for asking.
When this, as you say, everything and in its own time,
in season,
and in the right season.
Yes,
absolutely. But let's talk about the sweet. Sweet sounds. The other sisters.
Sonics.
Sweet Sonics. Sweet Sonic.
Sweet Sonic. So, Sister Nothemba, of course, this is a group that has taken on a second season of curation. It started with Melanie Scalds and my sister Danae and Mandisa Badal, who has been featured in The Lion King, and Sis Mandisa has also done wonderful work in her own right in curation and songwriting. And Sis Mandisa is the flame that has brought us all together now with Zasia and Debbie, also wonderful songwriters and women involved in different projects also.
When you started out, you were just 3. When I knew you, I think was it 3-4 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And now you're 4. What? Are you a wholesome band?
Yes, and to be honest, thank you so much. When you start mentioning names, you're like, I know, I probably forgot. And this is a very, very special project. Nothemba. So we are building up our repertoire and looking at different projects. So it's wonderful to be singing with women. That's also so special. So special.
Yes, and then there is the singing part of Chantal. There is there's just a lot of things. Look, you did, but of course there are some scheduled performances coming up for you guys.
Yes, Sis Nothemba. Yes.
Any dates that we can?
Yes, at the Nelson Mandela Sanctuary on the 30th of August.
Oh, on at last day,
the last
Sunday of 2026. But I also just am wondering that when you play your bass, your double bass, are there these other women that you think or that have sort of like even encouraged a deeper love of the instrument because how they've either shown you where else this instrument and the sound of it can go?
A wonderful question, Sis Nothemba. There are a few women that have on bass, definitely. I love Miss Esperanza Spalding. I love her approach. I also love there's a Danish electric bassist who I got to work with in Zap Mama, and then she went on to become the electric bassist for Prince. But she had a jazz background, but her approach and the liberty that she just kind of could sense and sound on the instrument was deeply inspiring. And also, of course, my peers. I love Romy. I appreciate her so much. And of course, Sis Tebza and, Sis Nothemba Marie Dawn, who's the head of Zap Mama. Her voice as an instrument was something that was pliable to any other instrument, any other concept of writing, in a way that put forward a very Pan-African sound and a very polyrhythmic sort of approach to the instrument. So those have been some of the women who've inspired my voice. And then also, Sis Nothemba, there are some known and unknown Uhadi and bow indigenous music instrument players that have also really changed the way that I listen to music. And also, though they're not necessarily bassist, but I love Alice Coltrane, John Coltrane's wife and partner. Just her openness, her instrument conceptualization beyond the piano, beyond the harp, just the way that she allowed her musicianship and her musicality to carry a very authentic way of listening, and then hearing how that brought itself to composing, and how that conceptualization brought itself to accompanying any group of persons, because her voice or her interpretation of sound and being in the moment to listen and perceive what was needed is highly intelligent and highly inspiring.
You talked about Rush Hour being a song you composed years ago.
Yeah.
What is on the shelf now that you might have composed for Chantal today?
Wow.
The Chantal who is today. Chantal who has gone over the years, going through the many seasons of her life, and maybe some songs that were created at a certain season, and then it's like, okay, you'll come out of there one day.
Yes. I Sister Thema, they are pieces of projects that Sister Thema, time is such a gift, and when there's one or two things that need to be done in this season, and in the meantime I am listening and looking for a lot of the projects that I wrote, and I am curating them into something that I'm trusting will speak to the many seasons that have come before, but that it would be a sonic picture, a season where I really pray, Sister Nothemba, that in everything that when the music is recorded, that it would be a seed that propels persistence for someone to hear and say, you know what, this has allowed me to know inspiration to the point that I'm going to get up and go and do what was hard, get up and go and do what I couldn't do, what I thought I couldn't do. Because there have been too many moments in my life when I thought it was done, that there was a time of inspiration, and that is and can be expressed through love, but it can also be through picking up an album, which it was at those points. And it touched me so deeply to know that this person spoke about the very thing I was speaking to, instrumental or with text, that just lifted my heart and propelled everything that came through and over and past that point.
I'm looking forward to those. I'm looking forward to hearing those, especially within the context in which they were created.
Thank you, Sis Nothemba.
Very quickly, we're about to wrap up. I think there's an important aspect of what you do that we can't just mull over. There's this collaboration and sharing of what you do with the students you do, with academic institutions in the US as well. So maybe just explain that this collaboration, bringing American musicians to South Africa, it's an opportunity of reciprocal learning. Because I think we also need to understand that before it was South African students going to America to learn and whatever.
Yes.
We have got a lot
Absolutely.
to share as well. Tell me
Absolutely,
about this collaboration and how it works
Sure,
for people to
Nothemba.
understand that we have knowledge, information that they need to know.
Absolutely. And Sister Nothemba, I also had to share, there are 3 projects that particularly engage with the United States as a region, as a geographical focus. One of it is Transatlantic Jazz Exchange. Nasia Syria is the CEO.
Yes.
And so I've served in that sort of program, looking at national programs, and then kind of looking at the curation for masterclasses, the ideas for ways in which we especially handle, integrate, treat, perceive, listen for indigenous or components of indigenous knowledge, of which that means its language, its composition, its sound, its ways, it's the historic knowledge, but also the presence of how we are allowing different voices to be heard.
Yes.
And the other program was with the Fulbright program with Prof. Greg Jasperser, and that has had a continuing impact where our students were invited to attend the summer camp with the New York Jazz Voices. And again, Sis Nothemba, when Greg arrived, he worked with a couple of community choirs and national choirs, but it is a real and honest aspiration, inspiration, fascination, intrigue to understand that there is a world of sound that is propelling a authentically beautiful and genius of the ways in which we understand South African jazz and improvised music to be taking the forefront of jazz as a whole across the world. And that is certainly being known because of our great, of my generation and before, and that arising, it is well evident the impact that South African jazz and
Is having.
our sound is making around the world. And it's incredibly exciting.
And I love that the South African jazz sound, we have really just touched the tip of it.
I agree.
The depth of it is still to be explored.
Absolutely, Sister Nothemba. It's such an endless well.
Yeah.
Because our histories are so deep and so rich. And we've had forefathers and mothers who fought for the opening of voices to be as it is in the generations now and those to come. So it is incredibly exciting. What lays ahead? What sounds ahead?
CKG is giving me an indication that we must wrap. I've got quick questions for you. Short answers.
Yes.
The bass or the voice?
Voice.
Voice. A song you wish you had written?
Amazing Grace.
Stage or studio? Or should I say classroom?
Classroom.
Oh. Collaboration or independence?
Collaboration.
Why did I think you will say that? Old school, new school?
New school.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Last one. What have you learned about love?
Love? I think I've learned that love is a privilege. It is a deep privilege if you can engage it honestly and authentically from the moment that you know what it feels. It is the most propelling force in life to overcome and to see redemption. which we all need, and restoration, which we all deserve.
I wanted to say something. I don't want to spoil it, so I'll say nothing. But I was going to say something to agree with you.
Yes.
But listen, thank you, Chantal,
Thank
for
you,
being so you.
Thank you.
And I know you see my tissues here. We're waiting because I know you just cry at beautiful things. You cry at sad things. You cry at a lot of things. I'm like, okay, we're going to have a crying session today. But we didn't. Well, just a little bit.
Yes,
But
yes.
thank you for being you and being your true self, and always, because your light and love shines through in your face, in what you say, in what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Sis Nothemba. Thank you for your strength. Thank you for your boldness. Thank you for probing us with questions that truly make us think about why we do what we do in the way that we do, and why we are supposed to be aware of some things that we shouldn't hide, or that we shouldn't pretend, or that we just shouldn't be abrasive of. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really value today, and I value you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nothemba.
Thank you for being here, not just in the studio, but just in our lives. Thank you, Chantal.
Thank you.
Come for the jazz and stay for the good times.
On Jazz and Beyond with Nothemba Madumo.
On 702 and Cape Talk.